Hi folks, Rob Crompton here with an introduction to one of my earlier novels, Leaving Gilead. This was the first of my novels featuring the Fellowship of Gilead. That's a fictional religious sect or cult based on the Jehovah's Witnesses. All three of my Gilead novels tell the stories of people who've been affected in one way or another by the way that Gilead has treated them. Leaving Gilead and The Dark Side of Gilead both tell the stories of people who have broken free and paid the price. Misfits in Gilead is rather different because the players there have not yet broken free. But more of that in another video. Let's take a closer look at Leaving Gilead. Susan and Melanie are both former members of the Fellowship of Gilead. They are in fact members of the same family. They grew up in the same family home, but they never knew each other because Susan had broken free from Gilead and had been banished from the family home long before her niece Melanie was born. Leaving Gilead tells the story of how they came to know each other many years later. There were lots of different sources of inspiration for various aspects of this story, but let me tell you about just one of them. Years ago, when I was living in Horwich, a small Lancashire town on the edge of the West Pennine Moors, I'd often take an evening stroll around the bars in town, enjoying a drink here and there before making my way home. On one such occasion, on my way home, I took a shortcut through the grounds of the leisure centre, and there, out of sight from the road, a young woman was lying between the footpath and the bushes. Gosh, what was wrong? Was she just hopelessly drunk or drugged even, or worse? I went up to her, helped her to her feet, and we struggled along the footpath up to the roadside. But what was I to do with her? And this, by the way, was a long time before the age of mobile phones. There were public call boxes here and there, but I knew that the nearest one had been vandalised. Who could I call for help anyway? An ambulance was hardly likely to turn out for someone who was drunk. So what was I to do? I couldn't just let her curl up under the bushes again. So perhaps take her with me back to my flat. That could turn out to be very awkward. Just then, a police car came by, so I flagged them down, and they took her with them, still unable to say anything at all about who she was or where she lived. I did phone the police station the following afternoon to ask after her, but of course they wouldn't tell me anything at all. So I was left knowing nothing at all about her. Okay, fast forward to Leaving Gilead, which I wrote many years later. First, let me set the scene. Tom Sparrow is in the process of selling his late father's house, and he's looking for a house to buy closer to his roots. There's one house in particular that he very much likes. It's a large, rambling old house at Ashton Moss on the edge of the forest. He'd known the place many years before. In fact, it was the house where his first girlfriend used to live. And all these years later, it had come onto the market. But Louise, his current girlfriend, didn't really like it. So, was he being serious, he asked himself, as he drove along the forest road to meet the estate agent? Or was he just having a nosy? A couple of 100 yards short of the house, he parked on the firm ground at the side of the narrow road where felled timbers are sometimes stacked, and he walked the rest of the way. The house came into view as he rounded the bend, the original 3 centuries-old building leaning drunkenly against the newer wing with its steep brick gables and tall chimney stacks. Beyond the house, at the far side of the moss, there was a tent. It had been there the previous time as well, and the time before that. So Tom went through the gate and round the garden at the side of the house, and this brought him much closer to that tent. A young woman was bobbing about beside it and apparently watching him through binoculars. He forgot about her almost immediately because a Toyota pickup arrived and parked at the front gate. The estate agent stepped out from the passenger side, leaving her companion at the wheel, almost out of sight. When, a little later, they came out of the house, Mrs. Greatrix's driver, she's the estate agent, by the way, her driver was standing in the lane. He was the same youngish man who'd brought her when she had come to do a valuation on his father's old house. And he was arguing with a shabbily dressed girl of about 19, the camper, Tom assumed. A stiff breeze blew her long fair hair across her face. She brushed it away with her hand and looked across when she heard the front door slam. Immediately, she turned and began to walk back towards the far side of the moss and to her tent. A couple of days later, there was a note through the door when Tom got back to his dad's old house from work. It said, "I saw you at Ashton Moss last week and I really need to speak to you. If you can make it, I'll be in the Swan tonight, or I'll drop by at your place sometime." Signed, M. Blaine. Who on earth would that be? Not the estate agent, obviously. Her driver, maybe. Well, that didn't seem likely. And there was the girl in the tent, of course. Was that who? Someone staking out the Snig's Foot house. That's the old name that was given to that house. Snig's Foot. Crazy. And no, he wasn't going to call in at the Swan. Not that noisy, smoky dive. But his curiosity was aroused, and he wanted to find out what was going on. So he went there after all, just for wandering, long enough for whoever it was to approach him. The air was thick with stale tobacco smoke. Even at 8:30, and before he'd been served, he began to feel grimy. The jukebox was playing loud enough to make the aluminium ashtray near his elbow vibrate. As soon as he was served, he looked round for somewhere to sit. But there was nowhere. It was too crowded. He stood between the jukebox and the cellar door and tried to drink his beer without being jostled too much. Who on earth in a place like this would have any interest in a 50-year-old guy who's planning to live in an isolated house in the forest? Nobody, evidently. At least not before 9 o'clock. And unable to stand the place any longer, Tom drank up and went to the Griffin. Then, after a couple of pints in relative tranquility, he took the shortcut across the leisure centre car park and along the unlit footpath behind the library. And that was where he stumbled upon the girl lying beside the path. What was wrong with her? Was she injured? No, she just hopelessly drunk. He helped her struggle to her feet, but she fell back into the bushes and rolled over, as if trying to get back to sleep. And in the dim light from the road, he recognised her as the girl he'd seen at Ashton Moss, who'd come looking for him for some reason. He would have called for help, but the phone outside the post office had been vandalised. Nothing for it but take her home and call for help from there. You shouldn't really do that, but what else could he do? He had to half carry, half drag her the quarter-mile home. He fumbled with the gate whilst trying to support her. He helped her inside the house and then carefully lowered her into an armchair and went to the phone. But now that he'd got her home, phoning emergency services didn't seem the right thing to do. Not at all. He could imagine the questions they'd ask, and he'd give the impression he knew more than he was saying. He knew he would. Better just let her sleep it off, and then perhaps he'd find out what she wanted from him. He woke up early the following morning and went downstairs straight away. There was a lot of tidying up still to do before the clearance men arrived to empty the house. "Time to get up," he said to the sleeping girl on the sofa. No reply. He tried again, a little louder. He shook her slightly. "Go away," she grunted and rolled over. "Come on, you need to get up. I'll make you some coffee and then I'll drop you off somewhere, but you need to hurry. Go away." She came into the kitchen while he was making coffee and toast. Her jeans and jumper looked even grubbier than when he'd seen her before, and she still had a couple of leaves from the shrubbery caught in her tangled hair. "The bathroom's upstairs if you want to go and freshen up." "Where am I?" she asked nervously. "Well, you're here at my place, not far from where I found you last night. You were, out of it." "Where's Anna?" "No idea. You were on your own." "What happened to you?" "I haven't a frigging clue. I was supposed to be meeting this guy, and Anna said don't go alone. Hope she's all right." "Well, I expect you'll catch up with her soon enough. Now, why don't you have some breakfast? And later, I'll drive you home if you like. I'm sure everything will look a lot clearer after a quiet morning to shake off. Well, I mean, that must have been quite a skinful you had last night." "No way. had won, and to make it last all evening as always. And then Colin Overend came in. That's this guy we know. And there was this really creepy mate of his. They bought us another drink. I thought for a minute No, I don't know what I thought. I suppose Anna must have gone with him. But I don't really remember. Oh, frig. You don't think he drugged us, do you? Drugged indeed. This could get complicated. Did he try to make you go anywhere with him? God knows. And that was the full extent of her story. A little while later, the doorbell rang. It was the house clearance men. "Morning, Mr. Sparrow. Everything except the stuff with the red sticker, was it?" "Oh, for frig's sake," said the girl in the living room. Once the men had finished and the house was stripped bare of everything except the few bits and pieces he wanted to keep, Tom needed to pack himself some things, lock up, and drive back to his own place in Lee. Already it was midday, and the girl was sitting in the corner, hugging her knees, and looking as if she intended to stay as long as possible. "So can I give you a lift somewhere? And you can tell me whatever it was you were after." "You're this Sparrow geezer, aren't you? Didn't recognise you just then. I remember now. It's coming back to me. Saw you on your way out of the pub. So I came after you, but you disappeared. So why did you want to see me?" "I saw you the other day. You were just getting home when I came looking for you. Only I bottled out." "You're not making any sense at all. What's this all about?" "Okay, back to the beginning. Last week, I'm camping at Cindermere Forest, right? Just across from the Snig's Foot. Then along comes this guy to take a look at the house." "Right, that was me. I saw you, but how did you know where to find me?" "It was the guy in the truck, Colin Overend. He drives Mrs. Greatrix around, him and a few others. She lost her license, you see, 'cause she's a piss artist. He's a devious bastard, but he's useful, and he gave me your address." "So what is it that you're after?" "I'm trying to find out where the folk are who lived there. Alan Ridley, actually. He's my dad. Sort of. Well, he is. Sort of. What does that mean?" "What that means is he used to be my dad till my mum and me walked out and she divorced him. And then I discovered that my birth certificate is a frigging fairy story. It's complicated, but that's why my name's not Ridley. No way. Left that behind with all the other crap. I'm Melanie Blaine now. Anyway, I'd like to be able to help, but I can't. Sorry. It's about 30 years since I had anything to do with the Ridleys. Susan, that's Alan's and John's young sister. She was my first girlfriend." "You knew them? You actually knew them? Oh, wow, that's great. But there wasn't any sister. I mean, I don't remember her. She would have been before my time. There was John and my mum and dad and my grandmother. John lived in Hertford, and the rest of us lived in the forest house, the Snig's Foot. My grandmother hated people using that name. Anyway, I don't remember this Susan character. But what do I know about the friggin' Ridleys? She was right, real enough. About 5 years younger than Alan, same age as me. Bloody hell. I guess she must have got out of it years before I was born. What was she like? Was she a complete prat like the rest of them, too frigging holy to be decent? Not at all. That's how the brothers were, and Mrs. Ridley. But Susan was different. Why do you want to find Alan now? Because he owes me, that's why. I take it you tried calling at the house. Well, of course I did. I'm not completely stupid. Nobody around. It's been empty for ages, so I just sort of hung around. Then I thought, what the heck, why don't I use... Well, never mind. Well, sorry, I can't help you. Oh well, I'll catch up with the bastard eventually, I suppose. And if you would like to read more of the story, I'll leave a link to the book, Leaving Gilead, in the comments below. Thanks for listening, folk, and bye for now.